Coming home from work that evening felt like walking straight into a frozen painting. Winter had swallowed Eastmore whole fields, buried under thick layers of white. The cottage glowing faintly beneath drifting snow. The porch light flickered through the flakes, small but welcoming, and my boots cracked through the ice as I climbed the step. All I wanted was warmth, family, and the quiet comfort of home. But the moment I shut the door behind me, something was off. Not silent. The kind of stillness that feels like a house is holding its breath. The coats hung exactly where they always did. The fire burned in the living room, snapping softly. Nothing looked wrong, yet a strange weight pressed into my chest. Then I walked into the kitchen. A man I had never seen stood beside the table, fingers wrapped around an axe from our shed. The blade was chipped, dirt streaked along the edge. My parents sat on one side, white-faced and trembling, and at the end of the table was our daughter, 10 years old, shaking so hard the legs of her chair rattled. He turned, calm in a way that made my skin crawl. "Evening," he said with a casual tone that didn't match the scene at all. "Name's Billy. Broke out of prison today. Need a place to stay. Do what I say, and nobody gets hurt." I nodded, because breathing felt impossible. "Okay, we won't fight you." We waited in agonizing silence, only the wind groaning against the windows, until my husband came home an hour later. The instant he stepped through the door, Billy lunged, grabbing me, pressing a knife to my throat. "Tie them up," he ordered, shoving cords at my husband. My husband's hands shook so violently the cords nearly slipped. He whispered, voice cracking, "It'll be okay. Just stay calm." That night, he shoved each of us into different rooms, dark, suffocating little boxes where you could feel the walls narrowing around you. From my father's room came shout studs, then a strangled cry. My mother's sobbing rose and fell behind another door. Sarah whimpered down the hall until Billy barked at her to shut up. I begged through my door, voice raw, "Please, please stop." His answer was a low, humorless laugh. Morning didn't bring mercy. Workers unexpectedly arrived to check the septic tank. Billy planted the knife between my ribs and hissed, "Smile, send them away. One wrong move and your kid dies first." My hands visibly trembled, but the workers left, never knowing their footsteps walked past 5 captives. Later he shoved a list at me: cigarettes, matches, newspapers. "Go to town. Buy these. Speak to no one. I'll know if you try anything. I've got your family." Driving away, the radio warned of worsening weather. I wanted to throw myself at the police station, scream for help, but every thought circled back to Sarah's terrified eyes. So I bought what he wanted, and returned. By then, he had shifted into a bizarre, manic cheerfulness. He forced us to sit at the table and play cards like guests at some twisted holiday gathering. The fire snapped loudly. My mother's eyes were swollen. My husband stared blankly at the wall. "Where is Sarah?" I asked finally. "Sleeping," he said, dealing another hand. Kids sleep a lot, but something in his expression, it was wrong. By the 3rd day, the snowstorm had sealed the cottage into an icy tomb. Billy paced from window to window, muttering about money, a car, escape, his nerves unraveling by the minute. That afternoon, he pointed at me and my husband. "You two come with me. Supplies now." At a stoplight, my husband leaned close. "The cop, right there, we can tell him." A police cruiser sat just yards away. Safety, salvation. But Sarah's face flashed in my mind again, small and afraid. I shook my head. "If we talk, he'll kill them." When we returned, Billy retied my husband and dragged me outside. "We're leaving," he muttered, fumbling with keys as snow hammered the windshield. But halfway down the road, his mind snapped again. No loose ends. He turned the car around. The first scream hit us before we reached the driveway. My mother's voice, high and desperate. Then my husband's fighting, shouting. A crash. Then stillness. I screamed from inside the locked car, beating on the windows until my fists ached. Billy ignored me. Neighbors heard the chaos and ran to help, calling the police as they reached the porch. But by the time officers entered the cottage, my father and daughter were already gone, killed the very first night, their deaths hidden behind Billy's fake calm and cold smiles. My mother and husband had died fighting in those last awful minutes. Billy dragged me back into the car as sirens wailed through the storm. He crashed us into a ditch, then stole another vehicle, dragging me, with him fleeing through blinding snowfall. The final showdown happened near the tree line at the edge of the woods. Police cars surrounded us in a halo of flashing red and blue. Billy yanked the axe from the back seat, pulling me with him. "Your time's up," he screamed, lifting the blade. An officer lunged, gunshots tore through the icy air. Billy dropped. The axe slipped from his fingers. Snow swallowed the sound of his fall. I survived. My family didn't. Now the cottage sits quiet and empty. Winter wrapped around it, forever frozen. In the last moment, I saw them alive. When summer finally arrived, Dave and I decided it was the perfect season to disappear from the world for a while. We wanted silence, mountains, and a place where no one could bother us. That's how we ended up booking an old cabin in the Utah wilderness, one so remote the map barely acknowledged it existed. Miles of dirt roads, pines, and empty meadows surrounded it. The listing promised total isolation, and that was exactly what we were looking for. The drive felt endless. By the time we left the last stretch of pavement behind us, the sun had dipped low, painting the sky with orange and purple streaks. The truck shook over rough track, climbing slowly into the mountains. When the cabin finally appeared between the trees, it looked like something from another decade. Weather-beaten wood, a leaning chimney, and a small porch facing the valley. Peaceful, almost too peaceful. The uneasy feeling started the moment I stepped onto the porch. The key waited under the mat, just like the owner said, but when I pushed the door open, something felt off. The latch didn't catch correctly, as if someone had closed it in a hurry. A faint smell of cold air and stale smoke drifted out. Think an animal got in? I asked Dave, though even I didn't believe it. He shrugged, trying to sound casual. Cabins shift. Man, don't overthink it. Inside, everything looked normal. 2 small bedrooms with metal bunk, a cramped bathroom, a kitchen stuck in the 80s. But when I opened the cupboard looking for a pan, my stomach tightened. A few cans sat behind the plates, one of them half-eaten. The lid pried open with something sharp. We definitely hadn't brought that. Probably the last renters, Dave muttered, though he didn't sound convinced. Come on, I'm starving. We ate quickly and headed down to the stream to fish before the light vanished. The water ran cold and clear over the stones. For a while, we managed to pretend nothing felt wrong. But that night, when we lit a fire inside and the forest went unnaturally silent, the unease settled in again. The kind of silence that feels aware of you. When we finally went to bed, every creak of the floorboards made my heart skip. I must have eventually dozed off because I woke to a faint, heavy thump outside. A single footstep, then another. Dave, I whispered into the dark. Yeah, he breathed. I heard it. He said it was probably a deer. But the way he said it told me he didn't believe that either. Morning brought thin gray light and a chill in the air. Dave brewed coffee while I stepped onto the porch to clear my head and froze. In the soft dirt was a boot print, fresh, deep, larger than either of ours, and pointed directly at the porch steps. Dave, I called, voice tight. He knelt beside it, jaw clenched. Maybe the owner came by, he offered, but his eyes said otherwise. We decided to hike behind the cabin to shake the nerves off. A mile in, we found a small clearing hidden behind thick brush trash scattered everywhere. Clothing scraps, food wrappers, a rusty can opener. Some of the wrappers matched a half-eaten can we found in the cupboard. Someone's living out here, I said quietly. Poacher or drifter, Dave replied. Either way, we don't want to meet them. The forest felt different after that, smaller, darker, as if someone was watching from between the trees. We tried to salvage the evening with grilled trout, but neither of us could relax. Even Dave's joke about Bigfoot fell flat. We locked the door that night, though the latch barely held. The fire snapped softly. The darkness outside pressed in like a weight. Then it happened. A slow scrape slid along the wooden wall, a dragging sound, like fingers. Dave's head jerked up. A tall shadow moved across the window, human-shaped, gone in an instant. There's someone out there, I whispered. Flashlight, Dave said, already standing. My hands shook as I pointed the beam through the glass. Only trees stared back. We shut off the lights inside, hoping darkness would give us an advantage. Then a whistle sounded outside, a low, deliberate note. Not an animal. Footsteps circled the cabin, slowly, measuring us. The back door handle rattled. My heart slammed so hard it hurt. I shouted at the wall, "Hey, get out of here." Everything fell silent. Then footsteps retreated into the woods. We're leaving at first light, Dave said, pale as chalk. Sleep was impossible. I sat in a chair with a kitchen knife across my lap, staring at the door. Around 3 a.m., something new began scratching beneath the floorboards. Not mice, something heavier. Something crawling in the crawl space. We stomped on the boards. The noise stopped instantly. Whoever was out there knew this cabin, knew the crawl space, knew we were awake. At dawn, we didn't speak, just threw our gear into the truck and slammed the doors. As Dave started the engine, I felt eyes watching us. Before I climbed in, a flicker of movement caught my eye, binoculars glinting from the trees. "Go," I yelled. Dave hit the gas. A few miles later, we spotted a sheriff's truck heading up the same road. We flagged him down and spilled everything to footprints. The noises, the trash, the jiggling door. The sheriff just sighed. "You boys staying in the Iron County rentals?" he asked. We nodded. His face hardened. "We've been tracking a man out here for years. He calls himself a mountain man, breaks into cabins, steals food, watches people. Dangerous. You're lucky he didn't force his way inside." We drove away shaking, only relaxing once signs of civilization reappeared. Later that week, I looked him up. Troy James Knapp, a survivalist ghost of the Utah mountains, wanted for armed confrontations and cabin burglaries. They caught him a short time after our trip during a snow-covered standoff. But knowing he was there that night, circling our cabin, testing our door, crawling beneath us, still chills me. We were never truly alone, and if we had stayed one more night, I don't think we would have left that mountain at all.